This is the next part of my Time for Machines Heavenly Hercules assembly video, and I've made some more notes in the instructions how that you have to put these two pieces side by side and slide them into the slot like you see here. And eventually these tabs will get bent down, as you see right here. I had a little trouble getting this assembly right here to line up, but when these two pieces are slid in all the way, you can see that this piece sticks out under the key. As I mentioned here, this end will stick out on the key side when the parts are fully inserted. Now, when I assembled this part with the gears and the little springs, they show here to barely bend the tabs, eyelets or eye-rings they call them here. Here's the way that they're assembled onto the shaft. Now, I had to clean these off pretty good. These little round inserts go up inside the circular gears, so you might have to file it some, and then everything sandwiches together onto the shaft before you can bend these eyelets over. And then you also bend these two tines over and these two tines over. I ended up having to file this little corner right here on this part on both sides because it wasn't quite flush with the other piece that's in here. So the pieces didn't sit all the way flush. So I made sure that these parts were completely seated, and then I just filed these eyelets, or the edges, the corners rather, a little bit down on the shaft, not inward into the main part of the shaft, but down, so that all of this, the parts would line up on here flush. Once that's done, you can bend the base around. As you can see here, I've already done that. And here's kind of another view of the assembly, so you can kind of get a better idea of it. Once you bend the base into place, you have to bend these little tabs over right here that they show you right on the instructions here. And then you take these parts, which are lined up, they show you which parts to take off the sheet, and then you insert them together, and then you bend this piece slightly up at a slight angle, so that when you put everything together, you're going to end up something like this, to where the piece that's bent up will go over the tabs here, and then through the ends will go through each end of the base, and then you end up bending the tabs over to keep it in place. You'll have to forgive my hands in this model. I've been working with some different sprays and glue, so my hands look a little rough. But anyway, and in this shot, they finally show you twisting the two tabs that are holding the spring mechanism just slightly, as we did on the two tabs up here in an earlier step. The next steps are pretty straightforward, and I didn't really have any trouble with them. You end up taking pieces off of the number 1 sheet of metal, and you also take a gear off, and you also get a die-cast gear that has a slot and 2 little holes in it for the tines of this part to line up. And basically you put these 2 pieces side by side and these 2 pieces side by side, and they slide together to make like a cross piece. And then you bend the tabs over, or tines, or whatever you want to call them. And then you slide the die-cast gear on over it and bend the tines over. And you end up with a part that looks like this. I used a little small screwdriver to kind of start the tines to be separated, and then a pair of needle nose pliers to bend it over. So that part's ready. It's a gear assembly. And then we take 2 more gears and also some more parts off of sheet number 1. And we do some more assembly, very much like we did on the last gear. We take 2 of these pieces, slide them together, and these 2, and put them side by side together and slide them up into these 2 parts to make another cross piece. Then they're slid up into the gear, 1 gear, since you have 2 gears on this step, actually 3. You have 1 and then 2 of these. So you take 1 flat metal gear and then you bend the tines or tabs over on them. Then you slide the die-cast gear on over this part of the shaft and bend the tines over on it, as they show you here. Excuse me, this picture is the one with the tines bent over on the gear. They also show you putting the other flat gear on the bottom of the assembly and bending the tabs over. So you end up looking with a piece just like this. And these went together pretty amazingly simple. I didn't have anything much to do with these, but obviously there's little burrs as you take them off the sheet and things like that. So I would recommend filing the burrs off, as I mentioned before. So that completes these steps in our next part of the assembly video. And so far our winder still turns freely, as you can see. So that's how we know that the mechanism is turning properly and everything's lining up. And we're moving right along. Thank you for watching.